Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome General Manager and Program Co-Chair, Eric Kraft.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning, yes. Welcome to Enterprise Connect 2016. On behalf of the entire Enterprise Connect event team, I want to welcome you and tell you that we're really glad you're here. We've got a great week planned for you, starting with this morning's summit and then keynotes. They'll begin in just a few moments. If you were here yesterday, hopefully you got down to the show floor. It was buzzing down there. It's open again today, starting when these general sessions and keynotes end at noon, and tomorrow we're on the same schedule. Keynotes and general sessions till noon, and then show floor. And it's a big floor. We've got about 180 exhibitors down there. A third of them are new this year, so if you're a veteran of Enterprise Connect, you'll still find lots of new folks to talk to, as well as those who you're accustomed to seeing here. And we're really take a lot of pride in the fact that this event is where the industry comes together every year, and it's where you're able to see all the new vendors, all the innovators, all the companies that are strategic to your enterprise. And so I really encourage you to set aside a lot of time to walk the show floor, meet with as many of our exhibitors as you have time to, kick the tires, see what they've got, and take the information back to your colleagues. And speaking of taking information back to your colleagues, also remind you the conference going on also started yesterday with some terrific in-depth sessions, everything from SIP trunking to the next generation communications APIs that we're starting to talk about as being a much more significant factor. And if you're here just on an expo pass, there's still plenty of free education on the show floor and up here in the sponsored session, so we encourage you to take advantage of that. And finally, I really want to encourage you to just take some time to network with people and just make new friends, see old friends. This is the great thing about a face-to-face event like this is that's where you get the opportunity to have those kind of conversations and meetings. Go to the reception, go to the functions that are happening, and it's all going to culminate tomorrow night at 6 o'clock with our all-conference party on the beautiful event lawn out here. Enjoy a lovely Florida night, hopefully, and just have a drink and kick back and chill and talk about what hopefully has been a productive and a useful week for you. Now, before I go any farther, I just want to take a really quick second and acknowledge the guy who for the past decade or so used to come out here and welcome you and kick off the conference. Fred Knight retired at the end of Enterprise Connect this past year, and so I want to take a moment to recognize the tremendous contributions that Fred made in creating the success that this event has become. And on a personal note, Fred's been my mentor and my friend for 20 years, and I've just been super lucky to get to know him as well as I have and to work with him as closely as I have. So he's here as an attendee this year, so I'd like to take just a real quick second, give him a round of applause. Okay. So now on to the conference. It seems to me like the path forward for enterprise communications is more uncertain than we've seen at any time in a couple of decades. In the past, we saw a fairly orderly progression of technologies. You go way back to analog, to digital, TDM to IP. But that was when communications meant exclusively voice delivered off of a hardware platform that stood apart as a silo. And once voice moved to IP, I think we all knew that silo was going to break down. It took maybe a little longer than we thought, but it happened, or it's happening. And at the same time, of course, concurrently, we've seen all the changes that have happened in our own worlds, the revolutions in mobility, webification of everything from how we shop to how we gather information, and of course, the rise of social networks. And of course, we know that these trends have been coming into the enterprise, and we've seen that there's an opportunity to integrate them with our communications and our collaboration and make those functions more efficient and maybe even transform our businesses with them. But we know that that's not been an easy or straightforward process. But I want to just call out a couple of trends that I think we'll be talking about throughout this week. We already have yesterday, and will continue on and through the next several years, I'm sure. And the most obvious one is the cloud. We've seen a lot of attention paid to the cloud. You've seen it throughout the IT world, and it's increasingly becoming a factor for for communications. But I think it was a really significant thing in the past year that the two largest vendors in this space, Cisco and Microsoft, made very definitive statements and really kind of put a stake in the ground that they see the future as being with the cloud. And that will have a significant impact, just as all the other companies really that you've been used to dealing with are talking about the cloud now, whether it's NEC or Mitel or ShoreTel or Unify. As well as newer companies coming in. We've got Oracle coming out a little later for a keynote, and their story will revolve around the cloud. We have companies that have never existed anywhere but the cloud, like Google, that have a communication story that involves the cloud. We have unified communications as a service, companies that started out as kind of a pure play in that space and had tremendous success selling into the small and medium market. If you think of 8x8 or RingCentral or Vonage, very successful in SMB, now looking to move up market into the enterprise and looking to expand and deepen their cloud infrastructures, adding contact centers, adding platform as a service capabilities with communications APIs, and adding collaboration applications. And then you have companies that are starting to work with, like the Amazon Web Services cloud. Companies like Twilio builds its network on the Amazon Web Services cloud. You have Interactive Intelligence making a significant product move based on AWS. And these companies are betting on that public cloud model changing the economics of communications. So what does all of this mean to you? You specifically, we asked you how you see the cloud. We did a survey on our No Jitter website, surveyed the Enterprise Connect audience, the same folks who we go out to for the show. And we asked a bunch of things. You should go to No Jitter and check out the whole survey. A couple things I want to highlight. We asked the survey respondents, what's your strategy for the cloud? What's your migration strategy? And here the results were 20% said that they plan to migrate to a hybrid model, combining hosted and CPE versions of their legacy vendors' platforms. 13% said they plan to migrate to a platform either in hybrid or totally in the cloud, a platform different from their legacy vendor to make a change. And 10% said they plan to migrate everyone to a hosted version, completely go in the cloud with their legacy vendor. So that's 20, 13, 10. That's 43% of the audience had a cloud migration strategy. 53% told us they plan no migration to any hosted platform. And yet this audience is very open to the cloud. We asked another question where we asked the audience to complete the sentence, I believe the benefits of migrating communications to the cloud are. And the choices we gave were overhyped, clearly identifiable, or underestimated. And the results were 29% said it's overhyped, 29% said it's clearly identifiable, and 21% said that the benefits are underestimated. So you really have half of that survey base saying that they have positive or very positive prospects for the cloud. So this is obviously not an issue that's going to be resolved quickly or easily, but it's one that we'll certainly be engaging with. The other issue that I think is driving a lot of what we're going to be talking about this week kind of deals with that whole idea of voice silo breaking down and communications not meaning just voice anymore. Whether it's video may not be the new voice, but it's certainly a significant part of your world now. And of course, even more significant messaging. We talked yesterday about mobile messaging. Those platforms are obviously getting incredibly important, as well as just instant messaging within UC clients. That's become a part of the etiquette of work life for a lot of people when they communicate. And then this messaging trend is sort of deepening into these collaboration applications that we're starting to see. You hear a lot about Slack. There's other kind of standalone applications or companies that have come out with these, like Atlassian with HipChat, Red Booth. There was Glip, which was then purchased by RingCentral, a service provider. And then, of course, you have Cisco Spark, Unify Circuit, the Microsoft applications of Skype for Business, Yammer, SharePoint. And the point is that they all try to tie communications into collaborative work. And they incorporate a lot of these trends that we talk about. They integrate applications with APIs. You see a lot of them integrating with Box or with Dropbox so that you can do document management within the application. They're multimedia. They've got voice and video components to them. And most of them are probably mobile first. So that's kind of just two of the major things that I think we'll be exploring a lot in this conference, and we'll be seeing more of in the years ahead. But the ultimate goal remains the same. You have to provision systems that provide the right type of communications and collaboration for what for you is probably a very diverse population of end users. Contact center agents to inside sales reps to field service workers, knowledge workers, finance people. They all likely nowadays require something different. And to get a deeper look at how we approach this challenge, we always start off Enterprise Connect with a panel discussion featuring end users from large enterprises. And we've got a terrific panel here today. To moderate the discussion, I want to introduce you to somebody who's become a really important part of this event and really is just has been a tremendous addition to our team. She's taken over as the conference co-chairperson as well as being the editor of No Jitter, and we're just really stoked to have her on board to moderate our next session, the program co-chairperson for Enterprise Connect and the editor of No Jitter, Beth Schultz.
Well, with that introduction and knowing that Fred's in the audience, I'm a little bit beside myself here. But anyways, Eric did a great job of setting the scene in terms of the issues that enterprises are facing in their communications and collaboration strategy. And so, as he said, we wanted to bring out a panel today to really talk about the question of what you need to do to prepare for that next wave. We've got a great group ranging from those in kind of spanning the vertical industries from aerospace to digital to financial service and hospitality. And let me introduce them to you. Starting with Jason Galanter, who is United Communications Architect with AirBnB. Hi, Jason, and you can sit right there. Jeffery Fairbanks, who is Global Head of AV and Media Technology with Bloomberg. Hi, Jeffery. Franklin Castro, who is Director of Unified Communications, New York Presbyterian Hospital.
Hi, Beth.
Hi, Franklin. Beth Hibling, who is Global Collaboration Services Senior Director, Northrop Grumman Corp. You don't often find two Beths in the same room, let alone on the same stage, right?
Right.
And Jim Mitilier, who is Assistant Director, Contact Center Information Technology for Hyatt Hotels Global. And last but not least, my co-moderator, Robin Gareiss, who is President of Nemertes Research. So let's start with a little scene setting here directly with this panel. Why don't we just go down the line and everybody share your UC strategies and your architectures, the number of employees you have, whether you're on-prem, in the cloud, a mix of both. And let's go with one thing you'd like to change this year.
We're going to change about everything this year. So our organization started primarily in the cloud, and we are moving toward a more of a hybrid design and architecture. Found that the cloud didn't quite scale as fast as we needed it to move.
Can I just interrupt 1 second?
Oh, sure.
So Jason, how many employees are you supporting internally?
So internally employees about a little under 3,000.
Okay.
So
With Bloomberg, we have approximately 16,000 full-time employees, another 3,000 contingent workers / vendor partners that are housed in our offices across the world. We have about 150 offices, in 73 countries. Our UC strategy just went through a major overhaul. We're in a second stage of a 3-stage process in that overhaul. We are 100% on-prem at the current moment. We are examining a hybrid approach for the last leg of our three-stage process, and we are in the process of evaluating whether or not that's something that will, as you alluded to, scale to where we need it to be.
Okay. Franklin?
Hi, how are you? So at New York Presbyterian Hospital, we support close to 40,000 employees, 6 campuses, and most recently, the alliance with 3 regional hospitals, with a 4th one coming on board around the July timeframe. Our UC strategy is a multi-vendor approach. Probably every single, the majority of players that you have on your exhibit floor today, almost 100% on-prem, looking to see where we can consolidate services this year over the next 12 to 18 months and see what approach works best for us moving forward.
Okay. Beth?
Thanks for having me today. I'm with Northrop Grumman, large aerospace and defense technology company, winner of the long-range strike recently, which we're very proud of. We have about 64,000 employees at Northrop Grumman. We're global, across the whole globe, obviously. We have been embarking down a path for the last 5 to 7 years on really burning out our aged infrastructure, moving to SIP, moving to all the unified communications with our big tier suppliers, and really focusing, around data and voice and video and all the components of collaboration and bringing the tools together to simplify the tool set, but making sure it meets our use case and our users' values that they need for the company. And that's kind of where we've been heading. We obviously, because we're a government provider, we have on-prem for the most part. We do use software as a service with travel and with eFax and some of those type services. We do outsource them. We are venturing into looking at cloud and where we can move to cloud. It would make our life a lot simpler if it all worked well in the cloud globally, right? But due to security reasons, we have to take a slow step in that path, and with legal as well.
Okay. Jim?
Yes, for Hyatt as an enterprise, there's about 15,000 plus end users supported. For the contact centers, it's about 1,500. That's more in my realm. Our architecture is, we've pretty mature in the hybrid cloud model. We did an RFP a couple of years ago to replace our legacy TDM PBX system. The cloud didn't give us the flexibility or the feature functionality that we required, so we kept that on premise. So we've had that on premise. Yet we also embrace the public cloud. For our IVR system, it's completely hosted system, yet it interfaces with our on-prem private cloud. And that in turn interfaces with our on-premise reservation system and also our cloud-hosted guest loyalty system. So we've been doing this hybrid cloud model for many years now, and we're pretty mature in that area. And our strategy is really to take these unified communication tools and to maximize the effectiveness of our most valuable resource in the service delivery infrastructure to our guests, which is our guest service associate. So we need to get them the tools to maximize that effectiveness of the human-to-human contact, which is very important and also is the most expensive part of our, whether it's in the contact center or the guest at the hotel, it's the most expensive part of our journey.
Okay. If I can jump in with a question, looking at, kind of taking a big step back, very high level, looking at what a lot of companies are doing today, and that is developing their digital transformation strategies. And what does that really mean? Well, how does technology integrate in with your people, your processes, your products, your services, your customers even? And I'd like to understand from all your perspectives, where does your role fit into that higher strategy, that higher level strategy where, you're seeing companies hire, excuse me, chief digital officers, chief strategy officers, whole new layers coming over IT that look at digital business and, chief digital marketing strategies. Where does unified communications, collaboration, and your roles fit in this broader strategy that you see a lot of companies embarking on now?
I can start. So I think as a director of global collaboration communication, I play a key role, and so does my team, because we own, SharePoint, document data management. We own the collaboration tools. We own big data, data analytics, looking at competitiveness for our industry, not just internal but external, and the ability to bring that value as we pursue new business opportunities, and also to be able to collaborate internally in the company and externally with our external partners seamlessly is just critical and key, and we hold a big stake in that world.
Jim, I'm kind of curious about your opinion on that, given that in the service business as you are, there's got to be a lot of focus on that digitization and the digital transformation.
Yes, we kind of look at the digital transformation as with the analytics. We're very focused on the customer journey, understanding all the customer interaction points across all the experiences, and then mining that data for how we can make that a more efficient, effective process. So our digital transformation is really, we are deep into analytics, and the unified communication platform comes into play pretty heavily in that area with the data analytics, understanding the life of the contact, the life of the interaction, the end-to-end customer points, and how we can analyze that and make that a more effective process.
Okay.
Just to follow up on what Jim said, in healthcare, analytics is key. We find with the changes in healthcare reform, compensation to healthcare facilities has changed. And if we are able, with the data that we have today, better offer better care to the patient, reimbursements to the healthcare facilities change and increase depending on whether or not we're able to keep a patient without having to return to the institution. Providing the clinicians with the data as quickly as possible is key in our environment.
And are you actually then using the analytics to trigger communications with your patients?
Oh, absolutely. And that ties in with the patient, clinician, the patient, just the healthcare institution as a whole. Tying those two together provides the patient with the ability to further interact with the clinicians, providing better care.
I mean, for us, we're much less lofty of a goal. We're not trying to necessarily, save a patient's life. We're in the financial services side, so you can draw whatever opinions you want about us. But we're looking at the experience in a couple ways. One, we care about financial markets. We care about what's happening in those markets, and financial markets are everywhere. Right? You can find a financial market in a tribe in Southern Africa. You can find financial markets everywhere, right? So we care about getting that information and getting it from everywhere. We care about the office experience, and we looked, so my team was responsible for looking at what happens in our offices across the world, and can we digitize, right, every aspect of that office? Do we need a physical building? Right? Do we need the traditional architecture of a corporate enterprise where there's an office and everybody goes to the office, everybody sits at their desk, and everybody does their work? Do we need that? And can we digitize every single aspect of it, from the pantry where people get their food, to the conference room, to the group sessions, to the team meetings, to every piece of information and collateral that happens, so that we can move that from the walls of the institution of your office and into the actual financial market, putting you right there in the smack center of it. And can then we use that to leverage those analytics, that information, that mobility and agility of our staff to be able to feed information to our terminal subscribers so they can make quick and informed financial decisions, and to our news subscribers who watch Bloomberg News and look for that financial insight that only we can provide because we have the assets in the field.
And is there any customization that you're even doing for, particular clients or customers, or is there
customization? And that's where I think it's a brilliant point, and that's where I think the conversation sometimes gets lost when you talk to the manufacturer. We've got this greatest thing since sliced bread. It does this, and it also makes julienne fries, right? But in reality, I'm the only, our firm, we're the best place. We're the foremost authority on what we need, right? Sure. The vendor is not. And so to the idea that customization is a second or third tier offering, or that there's anything in the offering that isn't customizable, or that you've got an API library or an SDK kit, but it doesn't touch every aspect of your service offering. I can't tell you how many times, right? You get a vendor that comes in and says, "Hey, I've got this great, this great product. We've got APIs. Don't worry, it'll do anything you ask and do." And then you actually look at the library and you're like, "Yeah, okay, all those things that your client offers, I can't do in the API library. So really, I can't do any of that stuff." Great sales pitch, but customization is penultimate to what we need in our solution.
And that's one of the restrictions and one of the problems that we're having with the cloud environment. It's tailored to the many and not to specific needs of our organization. One of the unique things about our organization is one of our core tenets is belong anywhere. So our employees, our guests, our hosts are anywhere in the world. We don't firmly believe in boxing people into that office and that office space. So you would think that the cloud would play very, very heavily in that. But what we found is that, to Jeff's point, the customization and the ability to tailor that user experience specific to your organizational needs is not there. And again, we started off in the cloud. We started off with cloud providers for our contact center. We have about 7,000 agents in the cloud, and these are outsourced agents. And we were unable to tailor that solution to meet our needs and to deliver responses to our customers and our guests and our hosts in the fashion that we wanted to.
So when you think about IT, we all know that everything's sort of a pendulum. We go back and forth, and we, go on-prem, off-prem, whatever. Is that what you're talking about? One of the things that's going to perhaps make people say, well, being in the cloud isn't allowing us to do what we want when we want it as fast as we want it, so maybe we need to go back on-prem and be able to have more control of that. Do you see
I don't think it's one or the other. We talk a lot about this hybrid solution. We're a big AWS house. We do a lot in AWS. We do a lot of cloud-based solutions. But we started off with almost everything in the cloud. And as a small startup organization, it was easy to start that way. But as we grew and as we determined what our methodology of doing business was, it became clear that hosting everything within the cloud was not a solution that was going to work. And again, bringing it all on-prem was also a solution that was not going to work because, quite frankly, that doesn't scale either. So I think it's become very clear to us that, and I hate to use the term hybrid because it's kind of, I think, overplayed a little bit in the industry right now, but it's the reality, right? And there's not a one or the other solution here that works.
Yeah, to Jason, I don't want to step on anybody else, but to Jason's point, we also at Bloomberg, we started as a cloud. We're still a cloud solution. 1981, you had a terminal. That terminal fed back to a mainframe, and that's where all the information lived, a cloud solution. And we still deliver our information that way. But to your point, there is this in my former life at Bain Capital. We looked at enterprises. We looked at firms from inception through maturity, and absolutely cloud. There's a place for cloud, right? There's a place as a small enterprise starting out, trying to figure out your way in the world and trying to figure out your value proposition. There's absolutely a place in the enterprise. There's absolutely a place for cloud, right? And to your point, I think hybrid is an overused term, but it does kind of accurately articulate where I believe, at least personally, where the world is going to go. There's no one absolute answer to anything, right? There are these shades of gray, if you will. Apparently 50 of them. No, there are these shades of gray where everything lives, and that's what I think is important to remember. To take the stance cloud only, or to take the stance on-prem only, would be narrowing your focus.
And I also don't think it's a static solution. I think it's a very fluid solution. So as we shift, as we move along, we shift back and forth between cloud and on-prem, and we do it very rapidly. Yeah. So it's utilizing these technologies in a fluid methodology, more than a static. This is their design.
And I don't think the cloud providers are actually. We know they're not mature enough yet, right? And in our space, they're trying to figure out how to keep that data secure enough that the DoD environment, the secret environment, can take advantage of the cloud. So we have to have a blend, right? Absolutely. Until they're there. But also, if you look at the UC experience, all the different elements of UC are not seamlessly created yet in the cloud. And that'll be a journey to get there, especially in the voice space. I haven't seen it totally mature yet.
So as you're making decisions today, knowing that it's this very fluid world between premises and cloud, what are the key kind of questions that you need to be asking of the vendors that you're considering, the providers that you're considering, to make sure that they can meet your needs as they change quickly, 1 year to the next or 1 month to the next?
Well, you said it in your question. It's quickly. One of the things about our particular industry is how fast we move. And one of the struggles that we have with a lot of our manufacturers, vendors, is that they simply don't move fast enough for us. And that's one of the key issues that we run into on a daily basis, is as quickly as we're moving and as fluid as this situation is, finding manufacturers, finding vendors that can move at the pace that we need them to move has become rather difficult.
We hear the term high availability. For healthcare, it's more about high security. If the conversation started that way, I think from a healthcare perspective, I think you would see that open up a little bit more. But in our environment, obviously, security is first and foremost.
The responsiveness is definitely a problem, but we seem to understand that for the cloud providers we pick. We know that they're going to have a menu of services, and they're pretty static in that. And that change comes slowly, and we kind of accept that fact, and knowing that it's not the best environment, but we pick and choose, and then if they can't meet that, that's where the on-prem comes into place. But the responsiveness of the cloud provider, that is definitely an issue, and if it's really need to build relationships with them, and we're finding that some of our providers that they had a set menu are actually starting to be more responsive in the feature functionality and quicker and open to changing their model to suit us. So because because they'll lose revenue at the end because we'll bring it in house. So we're actually finding that they're opening up a bit. So.
Yeah, and I was going to say, if you partner with them, we have quite a bit of endeavors with our various suppliers that we go under NDA with them, and actually have helped develop their product to suit our environment. We did that with the Windows 10 phone when BlackBerry was having its problems. We had to switch from BES to a secure environment. We had good on Apple, but that wasn't a cost-effective model. And so we worked with Microsoft to create the Windows 10 in a secure enough manner that we could use it as BES, because that was the advantage of BES, right, or BlackBerry. Yeah. So by partnering with them, we came and put that in play within a year, which was really good.
Just as a follow-up to Jim, you were talking about building, building relationships with the providers.
Yes.
Would you say that you essentially almost have to have someone lobbying the cloud providers? Because as I look at the environment moving forward, I really think that the composition of the IT staff has to change a lot. So you move into the cloud, you're not going to have as many people doing break fix, but you do have to have people doing something that they weren't doing before. And that's I really call it lobbying. You have to have those cloud providers, you want to make sure that their priorities align with your priorities. So do you have to have more people managing those partner relationships, and are you doing that?
Yeah, that's an interesting analysis there, because it is, you need to manage the relationship. So the relationship is heavy in the business process, so you need someone that understands in depth the business process.
Right.
However, they're highly technical, so you also need that individual that's highly technical on the classic architecture of IT.
Which is why people are having so much a hard time now finding IT staff, right?
Finding that compromise is definitely an issue because we have IT people, but we don't have the 15 years of the actual business process experience. So we do have kind of lobbyists, but it's an internal relationship with our operations and the IT where there's a lot of times I will be called in as a consultant to the cloud provider when they're having issues on there. So there's definitely, you're looking for that one person that knows everything, and it's just, it's a struggle.
It's probably more chief architects, chief technologists, or senior engineers that, will play a heavy key when you're developing services and looking at transitioning to the cloud and what they bring to it.
So we do have a team. We have our contact center solution is a cloud hosted. Currently, we're moving it away. Currently, a cloud hosted solution. And we do have a team whose sole purpose was to manage that relationship and to do exactly what you're talking about. Drive our needs through that cloud provider. Yeah. And you get to a point where of diminishing returns with that. As your needs grow and your needs divest from what that cloud provider is their core business model and what they're set up to do. So that actually becomes a more and more difficult process as you grow.
So I think that's one of the reasons why when people move to cloud from an on-prem environment, they think they're going to save money. There's a perceived cost savings, but it doesn't always come to fruition because you do have to have staff people doing just different functions. You don't lose your IT staff. You don't reduce the staff. They're just moving and doing something different.
And interestingly, it's a different. To your point, it's a different skill set,
right.
and at the moment, a more difficult to find skill set.
Yes,
absolutely.
Right. I think Jason also brings up a point with the cloud. As far as your earlier comment about agility, we actually had a major, large-scale, well-known incumbent in our space lose out because they weren't able to be as agile as the new firm that we migrated to. So agility is key. But to your point, what I'm fearful of as a global manager looking at the actual roadmap for our firm and where we're going, what I'm fearful of is the hype of the cloud. My interpretation of the hype of the cloud gets so pervasive that senior executives at the very tops of the firms believe moving everything to the cloud is the right choice. You lose the brain trust and domain knowledge at the actual operational level within your firm. And then where is your value proposition? Where is your to your consumers? Where is your product differentiation? If you're homogenous with this cloud environment and you have no domain experts in your firm to help you navigate through and give differentiation to whatever other providers are out there, then your IT strategy there is no value that you can gain from your IT strategy. So you're no longer competing on how great you are. How great you are in the the technology space. Now you're competing against about something else. Because everyone's the same level of great in the technology space because you're all using the exact same backend.
Well, there's also almost a tangent risk there is that you don't have transparency into the technical skill set of that cloud provider.
You do not.
They could lose their key architect and you would never know.
Nor the security.
Or the security, or the core tenets of that organization, what the other clients are doing and pushing their agendas that are being pushed through that cloud provider. So there's a lot of missing transparency there that you do have when you have your own controlled environment.
Especially acquisition,
right?
Yeah. I mean, acquisition's great in the news, right? You say, oh, great, that firm got acquired, but then you see who acquires them, you're like, oh, no, that stinks that they acquired them, because you realize that brilliant roadmap that they had laid out may not be in line with what that larger parent company wants.
That could be an issue.
So, did you have a question?
Go ahead.
Okay. Along those same lines about the composition of the IT staff, another thing that we're starting to see, and Beth, maybe you can comment on this because I know you're doing some of this, is a heavier emphasis on marketing and training internally. So making sure your employees actually know what you have available and not only know that it's there and how to use it, but how does it make their life better? How does it improve their productivity? How does it make them more efficient? And do you need to devote staff within IT to do this, and it's not a traditional role of IT. IT is not by nature marketers, right?
Right. So what we did last year is I realized just that we had all these tools, and we actually went out, and every year they survey, the CIOs survey the business VPs, of our business units, and they provide feedback. And one of the things they said is they think they have too much IT. There's too many tools, too many technologies. The use community, the staff doesn't know how to use them all, and so that was the feedback that they gave us. So we took that very seriously, and I actually put in a community manager in my space, and her role is purely around user adoption and making sure what marketing we need to do, training, technology days, all these things to get the message out on how to use the various tools and technologies. And then also we created an advisory council at the executive level for collaboration to get input and feedback from the business units. Are our use cases the right use cases? Enterprise video, cloud, personal cloud storage, with OneDrive, those type of things that we're looking to roll out across the enterprise. Is that the right way to go? Does that bring value to you and interacting with your customer? And so we're standing that up. We have the kickoff in April. We're very excited about that. And then we also are working very closely with our corporate comm folks to put a message together and a campaign around the various tools and technologies. Because what happens is typically IT rolls the product out, they train everyone, they get it out there, and then periodically they do refreshes. But you have new people coming in all the time, right? So the other thing we also did is put it as part of the new hire training so that they would take X number of CBT courses on the tools and technology, new manager training. So really get it embedded in the corporate culture instead of expecting people just to learn.
Well, and the landscape's a little different. Where IT would present the product to the environment and its customers, the employees today are coming to IT requesting certain things.
Well, it's nice that they're making
demanding.
requests and not
Demanding.
No, that's not requesting. It's very much.
They are demanding. So any marketing that we had to do in the past, it's shifted now, right? So and we have to adjust how we deliver services, which means making sure that we are in line with from healthcare perspective, our clinicians and what they're expecting for us to deliver to them.
And it very much is marketing and selling. We have to sell to our own people our solutions.
Absolutely.
They have their own solutions. I mean, the list at the beginning of this, our intro here, almost every single product listed is within our organization, and it's brought in by the different groups within our organization as quickly as we move. And our job has become, we have actually a comms unit within IT. So we don't rely on corporate communications. We have our own comms unit because how quickly we have to do this and respond, and the fact that we actually have to market our solutions as why our users should choose to use our solution over the solution that they want to bring in.
So you're competing against the cloud providers.
Absolutely.
For our firm, our leadership made that paradigm shift. My title is AV and media technology, and the point of that AV was our CIO said, you know what? The user experience is so fundamental to understanding and the adoption of this technology that I want an AV expert in that position, because AV systems are the bridge between the end user and the technology. It's that AV that AV domain is where that experience happens, and so they actually purposely put me in that position, for that. Shameless plug. 4 o'clock. If you want to see a good example of what we did to market and the actual commercials and the actual things that we did to market to our end users, there's a session that I'll be speaking at that actually shows, and I'll be showing some of that content.
The issue we have too, though, is generational, right?
Oh yeah.
So at large corporations like Northrop, you have X percentages in the 40+ years, right? And bringing in all the young workforce, and so it's how do you bring in all the new social tools, the blogging, the one personal storage, all that stuff, and get the more mature employees as excited about using those tools as the new hires. So it's a difficult dilemma there and how to
And
propagate
do
all
you
that.
use the tools during the recruiting process itself, to let those young kids coming out of college or whatever that you're a cool technology company, not just a cool aerospace company?
Right, we have. I would say we're not as mature as we would like to be, but that's where we want to go, and we do use them.
So we have almost the opposite problem. Our workforce is a very young, very dynamic,
Right.
very hip and trendy, and we're trying to convince them to use some more enterprise tools and tools that scale more than what they're used to. So it's a unique paradigm where we're selling that kind of that legacy solution down to these millennials that want to use their iPhone for everything. Basically.
Right.
I think one of the other organizational issues that you guys must face is how you work with the lines of business and developers as the ability to communications and the desire to communications enable business applications, business processes becomes more and more of a reality. Can you talk a little bit, and we don't have much time left, but can you talk a little bit about how you're working with developers and the line of business and communications enabling applications?
So, interesting enough, our developers and most of our engineering is in-house, right? So, the interesting thing for us is how we are interfacing with the manufacturers, with the cloud providers. And Jeff mentioned it earlier, the APIs and their definition of APIs. Sure, you can do that. Oh, wait, no, you can't. So, working with these external developers and the external processes they have, it's become very difficult because what we expect from an API is significantly different than what a lot of these providers have.
What we've seen, the consumer side has had an effect on our side. So we have, most recently, we in-house developed a NYP Connect app available to anyone in our institution, which provides a seamless connectivity to everyone. Obviously, it's attached to AD. So we see how the consumer side of a product is being brought into not only healthcare but every other environment. Mainly even on the mobility side.
Yeah, we're working with a huge focus on mobile. Now, we have to get a lot of our legacy applications and how we've done code and all that stuff in the past upgraded to the most recent version. So we have a stretch there to move and migrate. But we have done a lot to make sure that the applications are built with responsive design, because you have to be able to use it on any form factor, right? And so that's really where the methodology and drive is now with our development staff and our application staff.
Okay.
It's the marketing is interesting. I think coming from a smaller organization, we don't really have an IT marketing problem because the business units drive the IT development. We respond to their needs. And also, we introduce new technologies, but it's got to be signed off from the operations, the business. So they really drive a lot of our stuff. It's not really IT driven. It's actually the reverse. So, and they're heavily into training on all the applications. So it's interesting, and I think that might be a benefit of being maybe a smaller organization. But it's the dynamic of the marketing. We don't seem to have a problem with that. So it's interesting hearing from these other companies.
We've taken a different approach on the R&D side. What we've said is we're going to build our roadmap. We're going to decide what technology we want and what we want it to do, and then we're going to go out and find a partner. And if they don't have it, we're going to help them make it. And the relationship's going to be about, hey, we're going to help you develop this technology. We're going to use it, and you're going to give it to us for a reasonable rate. But you can run off and sell it and monetize it in some other way. But we're done with being married to the roadmap of the vendor. Instead, we say, this is our vision, this is the way we believe the world's going to go, and we're going to do it. And if you want to help us, great. If you don't, we'll find somebody else.
But I think the suppliers are very willing to help.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And a lot of them step up to the plate.
Yeah.
You know, for sure.
And that's not just a startup game anymore. I mean, that used to be kind of one of the benefits of working with a startup is you could sort of cater the technology to your needs. But you're talking
big. You're talking about big firms. Yep.
So as you do this whole preparation for the next wave, as our title is, are you or how are you changing who you hire? What are the new qualifications? You know, there's a lot of IT leaders, executives, staffs in this audience. Do they need to be retraining now? Do they need to be looking at having some business acumen or industry-specific knowledge or communications marketing? I mean, are there new skill sets that you guys are looking for?
Well, I think on the engineering level, the siloed methodology is falling apart for us. It's how much wider can you be? Depth is also still necessary, but you know, from our engineering perspective, we're expecting them to be a lot more versatile across platforms, across technologies. You don't have a UC guy that does just UC anymore.
Yeah, I'll agree with Jason. And, you know, it is a challenge because folks like what they like and sometimes they don't want to change. But you really need to be shifting them and moving them. And, you know, if it's cross-training, if it's actually putting them in different positions to broaden them. So they not only learn the other areas of the business, but also the other technologies as well.
And it's familiarity with the business, that's a key point. Yes. Familiarity with the business, not just the business of IT.
Right.
It's critical. I mean, they're just melding together. You have to be technical and you have to understand the business. And it's just as we do go to the cloud, it's like what we were talking about with the ambassadors. It's just critical to have that business knowledge, and you can't just be technical. You have to be an ambassador to your business unit if you're technical for to help the implementation of the cloud. So it's critical.
Not necessarily a subject matter expert in one silo, but someone who understands the subject of IT, the subject of the business.
Okay.
We just look for curiosity. Above all else, obviously all the things that were just referenced, but curiosity.
Curiosity and passion.
And passion, for sure.
Absolutely. I think that's a great place to end on, curiosity and passion.
Yeah.
So, thank you all for participating in the panel. We really appreciate it. Great insight you shared.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Robin.